Eric, why did you write the book?
I wrote the book because it occurred to me that the business model that most companies and nations were using in low-income nations, especially Africa, was failing. And the reason why I make this statement is because, as we speak, we still have 2/3 of the population on the continent living under $2 a day.
And did you have to undertake any kind of research before you wrote the book? And when you started writing the book, what did you find?
I think the book really came from experience.
Okay.
It came from experience working with different nations across the continent.
Okay.
And I was actually fortunate to have been working with a company called OTF Group, which has a number of the world's foremost development thinkers. So that also brought me some of the tools that were required in order to make the book happen. But it really builds on case studies and real-life examples.
Take us where the book took you. Where did you go?
Well, it's interesting because the way it really happened was more to reflect on everything that had been through. So I have been fortunate to have worked and lived in Kigali over the past 10 years, all the way up to last June. So that was obviously one of the highlights of the book. I also had a chance to do some work in Haiti, which also provided some case studies. But most importantly, I've really been blessed to have met some of the most amazing entrepreneurs that the continent has. People that have really managed to break out of the survival trap,
sure,
you know, despite of all the conditions and challenges that they had.
Yeah. So give us your main findings.
Look, the main finding is that when we look at the continent, it's very clear that most of the stakeholders, whether it is individual businesses or nations, are stuck in what I call the survival trap, which is a vicious cycle where most of them really keep on repeating the same old formulas in order to address the very urgent problems that they face. And I'm sure you've heard Einstein say that the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over again, expect a different result. So once we make that remark, it becomes very clear that we need to find another way to move forward. And to me, that way begins with mindset change. But it begins with mindset change that really respects what it is that firms can do. And I think firms, as in businesses, are very good at innovation, and they're very good at making products. What is required, though, is that they really embrace business models which would create prosperity and opportunities for all the stakeholders in the society.
Yeah. So I would imagine in a situation like that, unsurprisingly, what you find is that it's the small companies that are stuck in this mode that you're talking about, the survivalist mode. Was that a surprise for you to find?
Well, it's not only the small companies, which is really
even the big companies.
Absolutely, even the big, even countries. I mean, why is it that 50 years after
countries' way of saying, countries we can relate to them.
Why is it that 50 years after independence, we still have only a few countries that have managed to really emerge, to take off? Why is it that we have to rely on aid? Why is it that companies still struggle so much to come and invest in Africa and build competitive products out of Africa? I really believe that these are all symptoms of the survival trap. So it's really an issue which is pervasive, which touches individuals, companies, and nations alike.
Yeah. So where do you begin? Where do you find the solutions? Do you go and knock on government's door and say, actually, this is where the problem lies, and if you fix X, we will get Y?
Well, this is really what the orthodoxy has been. It has been about, let's really try and see if we can twist the arm of government for them to do all the reforms. I mean, 50 years later, unfortunately, that hasn't worked. I really believe that where we have to begin is to look with those stakeholders within our societies who are good at creating prosperity. And those stakeholders are entrepreneurs. So that's where we have to begin. We have to begin by looking at some of those entrepreneurs and really find a way of literally empowering, or if you will, infusing the business model with a lot more energy to move forward. And this is not to say that government doesn't have a role, but government's role is only necessary, not sufficient.
I was going to lead you on and ask you where we find those entrepreneurs.
What do you mean, where would we find them?
Where we find, where
everywhere
are they?
on the continent. They are everywhere.
Where do they sit?
They are everywhere.
There are some people who would be interested in this conversation.
The fact that you ask this question is really symptomatic of the problem. We have been so focused on trying to deal with governments that we have forgotten.
But this is
all
the problem,
business
you see. This
people
is
in
what I
our
was
midst.
leading you to, because I wanted you to say to me, we are going to find them nowhere inside government, but outside government, because this is the problem.
Yep.
You have a government that believes in nationalizing stuff. You have a government that believes in driving the economy, and we are leaving the solution providers. As
Absolutely. But please go ahead.
I would like to ask you, don't you have a problem that governments actually suffocate our entrepreneurs?
I don't think it's a fair accusation to make. I mean, I think some governments do, but it's not all of them. My sense is that the overemphasis on government in the development discussion is part of the problem. What I'm here to say is we have entrepreneurs that have solutions. Let's really find a way to make sure that the businesses boom, and let's make sure that they have businesses that also are inspired by moral purpose. Because once they have the moral purpose and they grow, that in itself should create opportunities for citizens at the bottom of the pyramid. And to me, that's really the key. So it has to be, let's put the business center stage in the discussion.
Absolutely. We should put business center stage at the discussion, but you raise a very important point, and it's a point that I think captures the heart of the problem that we have in Africa. When I look across the continent, and I mean, Africa has been independent for what, since the 1960s or thereabouts. When I look around and I'm looking for examples of successful states that have over the years run out of the survivalist trap that you're talking about, I can't find any except a few. Botswana, until 2 years ago, is probably the only example that you could lift up. Who else? Did you find any?
Look, I think that the issue that we face here is the glass half empty or is it half full?
I want to call it half empty, because there isn't.
No, here's the thing.
Call a spade a spade.
No, look, my belief is that there are businesses, there are entrepreneurs today, as we speak. I mean, I can give you names.
No, but we agreed that the solution should come from the government, in part, because actually, governments ought to be leading part of the process, isn't it?
Only in part.
Okay.
Only in part. So if we keep on focusing the issue on governments, we are going to get what we always got.
But business operates in an environment created by government.
I agree, and I'm not saying that they do not, but I'm saying let's really begin with those entrepreneurs, and as we go through the process of making sure that they grow and they escape the survival trap, we can then look at what it is that government has to provide that is missing to help those entrepreneurs blossom. So to me, we have to begin with the entrepreneurs. But look, the discussion here, although the ultimate goal is prosperity creation and is escaping the survival trap, the discussion is really about how do those businesses do well. Because if you look at it, you know, the computers we use, the software we use, the car we use, the clothes we wear, they are all manufactured somewhere else. Why is it that we can't have also global brands that really emanate from the continent outside of only a few sectors? To me, that's really where the fight is. That's where we are going to be able to create prosperity.
Ulrich, you want to come in?
You know, the other thing that I think about is, if we look at Africa and the natural beauty of this continent, should we concentrate on tourism to get those entrepreneurs really moving and moving the prosperity into the continent by attracting these people to come and visit our continent? And then from there, that you have a base where you can build on. And I think that the problem is also, to a certain extent, to build on these entrepreneurs, but they have to demonstrate to the people around them that you can make profit.
I think in terms of the demonstration that they can make profit, I think it's already there, i.e. we have some very successful, I mean, let me just give you just a few names. I mean, you have people like Dr. Manu Shandaria of Kenya, you know, whose family, Comcraft Group, has actually built a conglomerate which now spans 50 countries. You have entrepreneurs in South Africa, people like Alon Reyes of Reyes Core, who actually decided that his business was going to be to help other entrepreneurs be successful and do it profitably. So the point I'm trying to make is that the evidence that we can make a profit is there. What is missing is that the vast majority of entrepreneurs do not necessarily know what it is that they have to do in order to grow and succeed, right? And to go back to your point, our leaders in the public sector also don't necessarily understand the role it is that they have to play to really empower the few entrepreneurs that are doing the right things to move even further. For me, that's what the challenge is. Yeah. The point that you actually make about the fact that we have potential in tourism, that's very true. But tourism is really a sector where every single country in the world has potential. I think what is critical is to find a way to graduate from the natural resources that we have into experiences and products. And this is something that a country like Rwanda has done extremely well, where they have gone from about $8 million in tourism back in 2001 to well over $150 million last year. And a lot of it has been about the ability to really invent a model of tourism which protects the natural resources that they have while creating prosperity for the communities around the park. So I think that's where we can make impact happen.
Eric, unfortunately, time has definitely run out here, but you make some very important points. But the lasting point I really want to hammer on is the fact that what you're talking about is key in understanding part of the problem of why Africa has remained where it is 40 years on after independence. The only country in Africa that has never been colonized is Ethiopia. And yet we know Ethiopia is probably one of the poorest countries in the world today, now stuck in the survivalist mode, if you like, and needing to break out.
Absolutely. Look, for me, though, I don't believe that 50 years after the independences, it is fair to still blame colonialism. As far as I'm concerned, the time has come for African, through its entrepreneurs, to lead the charge towards prosperity.